Good morning, guys. Ooh, this is weird. No, I'm not preaching. I'm not preaching. I'm not preaching. Paul's just making me get up here. I'm just here to tell you, it's weird to tell you guys because most of you that are here this morning were actually at distribution yesterday. Tell you what we've been seeing at the food pantry and what happened yesterday. So, about 3 weeks ago, we started getting these phone calls from the food bank like twice a week saying, hey, we have extra deliveries that we'd like to bring you. It's just going to be a surprise. You have to take everything on the truck. And guys, the stuff that was coming into the food pantry, we really felt like the walls were starting to close in on us because there was so much food. And I know Miss Leanne's had a time over there trying to move stuff around so we can still walk and pack bags and have a little bit of space to breathe. But the food has been coming like crazy. We had no idea really why we were seeing such a huge influx of food the past couple of weeks. And we realized this week what was happening. God knew our need. God knew our need before we did. And he was sending the provision to take care of the hundreds of families that we were going to have to serve yesterday. So we got in the office on Tuesday, and I'm trying to keep it together. We got in the office on Tuesday, and we kind of talked a little bit Monday. We knew we were going to have to make some changes for distribution. Not really sure yet what we were going to do, but we knew we were having distribution no matter what. I think I even said, if I'm the only one that's allowed to be here and I have to wear a hazmat suit, we're doing distribution. So thankfully that wasn't the case, though. We decided on Tuesday morning that we were going to go to drive-through distribution, which we have never done before. In the 13 years that we've been doing distribution, we've done it one way. And so to try to change it 4 days before distribution was a task. We had to somehow notify all 547 of our clients that we were going to be making a change and that we were still going to be here for them. And then I couldn't use hand sanitizer this morning because I had my notes. So we actually called a good bit of clients. We went to their apartments and posted notifications on their mailboxes. We mailed letters out to clients, just anything we could do to let them know we were still going to be here for them. Just to give you a little bit of background, last month we took 7 new applications at distribution. 7. Tuesday, we took 19 new applications. So far this week, we took 41 new applications, 38 emergency bags. We had 38 emergencies where clients came in and said, I've lost my job. Here's my proof that I've been laid off. Hang on, y'all. Give me just a second. Here's my proof that I've been laid off. I normally don't need this, but we are in a situation now where we need help. And so we had 38 situations like that this week. We had plenty of food. As of yesterday, we signed everybody, all of our volunteers up in shifts. They came and worked in 1-hour shifts. Sorry. For every shift, I know for a fact that we had at least 4 different churches here represented, including CCAM. We had people from First Baptist call and say, hey, we're not scared. We know we're covered in the blood of Jesus. We are coming to serve. We had First Methodist, First Assembly. All the firsts were here yesterday. All the different churches were here to serve, and nobody was afraid. We told our clients we were going to have very minimal contact with them, but we had hugs and we had high fives and elbow bumps and everything. So a client contacted me last night. She was the first 1 or 2 in line. She got in line at 5 o'clock yesterday morning. 5 o'clock. We opened the doors at 9, so she waited 4 hours for food to serve her to give to her family. And then distribution, if you were here, it lasted a little bit longer than usual. We are normally done at 11. At 12:36, we took our last client yesterday, so it went a little bit over. But if you go in that food pantry right now, it seems like there's still just as much food right now as there was before. It doesn't look like we even did distribution, but I promise we did. So we served 482 households yesterday. That's 88% of our total clients that showed up for distribution. 38 emergencies, 41 new applications yesterday. So the need is huge. in Minden, but we have put the word out there that no matter what, we're going to take a day off this week, but no matter what, we are going to be here to serve the people in our community that are in need, and God is constantly sending the provision for us to be able to meet that need. So whether it's volunteers or food or finances, whatever, he's definitely taking care of us so that we can take care of our community. So I encourage you this week, this next month, as we, however long this thing drags out, be the light in the community. Just tell people that we are here to help. Sorry. Dang it. That there are people that care in the community. There are people that will take care of them. There are people that are here to help, and send them our way, because we are more than happy to be able to be those people and to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Thank you, Jessica Lewis. I'm telling you, I want to be like her when I grow up. Offering. That reminds me, taking up the offering here. If you're giving options, we've got several, but I'm just going to give you one right off the bat. Go to www, all lowercase, theccam.org/online-giving. Play it back if you want to hear it again. We want to thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, on iTunes, however you're viewing this morning. We want to thank you for being with us. We made a decision that we're going to have church, and whatever we have to do to have church, that's what we're going to do. It doesn't matter, what type of mandate that the government has. We're going to abide by that mandate, but we're going to have church. And so we are abiding by the governor's proclamation, and thank goodness we're not in Texas, because they can't have more than 10 people. In Louisiana, it's 50, and I expect Louisiana to go to 10 very quickly, and when they do, we're going to go to drive-in church. We're going to have church. We will not forsake the assembling of ourselves together. That's what the Bible says, and that's what we're going to do. It's not a suggestion. It's what the Word of God says to the church. Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. And for those people in Texas, New York, California, wherever you are, that can't assemble, you know what? This may be your only way to have church, but have church. But until then, we're not stuck at home. If we have to have 8 services on Saturday and 8 services on Sunday, that's what we'll do. Whatever the case may be. But on Palm Sunday, which is what, the 5th? I think it is. Anyway, on Palm Sunday, the Sunday before Easter, we're going to do drive-in communion on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. And we'll issue everybody who drives up one of these. It's sealed. It's got a little wafer thing on top, a little bread thing on top, and a little juice thing on the bottom. And we're going to have communion citywide, however, wherever you're at. There is no limit on parking lot as long as you stay in your car. So we're going to do drive-in communion on Palm Sunday and probably Easter. I'm believing that we're going to be through this thing by Easter, and the churches will be filled again. I mean, man, what if Jesus came back this morning? Man, what if he showed up in Texas and went, where's everybody at? It's a bad situation they've got over there, and it's bad all over. Don't get me wrong. And anyway, we're not going to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, but we're not going to be stupid, and we're not going to be silly. There are newborns out there that don't need to be around us, right? There's people that have respiratory problems that don't need to be out right now. There are people. I'll just tell you the story of my niece. She's 37 years old, and she's going through she got one more round of chemo and radiation before she has a double mastectomy. Her immune system is at nothing right now. It's just shot. Her name's Lauren. Pray for her. And my sister, her mom, came to get her children and take them to, they call my sister Shug for some reason. She's not sweet. But, no, she is. And so they're at Sugarland in North Carolina, in Charlotte, and her daughter's in Nashville. So that they had to break up the family just to try to keep her immune system to where she could be able to have surgery. And so, there's people in a lot of situations, and we don't want to be stupid. We don't want to be silly. But we're not going to be who we are. We are the cure. We have the cure. We can be the cure. We're going to preach the cure. We're going to preach Jesus. We're going to do whatever we have to do to get the word out. There's still lost people going to hell every day. In the state of Louisiana, 12 people, in the United States, a person dies every 12 seconds. That's a lot of people going to hell, and we're not going to stop. This isn't a virus that caused this. This is a devil that sent a virus to do this. And that's where we attack. And so we're going to preach the cure, and we're going to do things that are right. What people don't understand is the way that God does his math. I know that y'all have heard this a lot, but look at it like this. If Jesus says, if you have a faith the grain of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. A little bit of grace covers a multitude of sin. A little bit of Jesus can overcome an awful lot of the devil. It doesn't take, there's not an equal amount. It's not a fair fight. You got to realize that we are at a disadvantage numerically, but the devil is at a disadvantage spiritually. That's why God tells us we don't war against flesh and blood. We war against powers and principalities. God's math says if one can put 1,000, two can put 10,000, and two can put 10,000, three can do 100,000, and it just continues. The way he does math is the coolest thing I've ever seen. But what he's trying to tell you is, he said, I've already won the fight. You just got to get in there and stand, and what I have is greater than what he has. That's why what greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, and it doesn't matter how much of the world it is, it still doesn't change. It doesn't matter how much sickness is out there, it still doesn't change the fact that he bore that for us. We have to have the strength and we have to have the faith to stand up and get those things done, to call those things that be not as though they were. We are going to have to speak things into existence. We're going to have to do things differently. But you know what? We're not at a disadvantage. We're not the underdog here. It doesn't take much Jesus to defeat things. We just have to change the mentality that it's an even fight. It's not. Ginger and I can take on a lot of devils. Not just two. We're bigger than what this thing is. And we've got a scared world, and it needs a fearless church. It needs a church that's going to stand up to this disease, to this devil, and say, no, you have no place here. This thing didn't come from China, it came from hell. Now, President Trump says, China. But, and that is where it entered the world, but it came from hell. God has no part of this. This is not some, man, if you look on Facebook, you see all kind of stuff. God's doing this. God sent this thing for, crazy people. You hear me? Jesus said that I come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. There's no abundance in this thing. The only abundance of anything I'm seeing out of this thing is fear. We're not going to go down that road. Every pastor in the world that is preaching today is talking about fear. He's talking about fear. I'm not going to talk about fear. I'm going to talk to fear until it's got to go. It's got to. We're Bible-believing people. We know better than this. We know better. The world doesn't. So we have to be the church for other people. I was talking to Rob because Rob is not traveling as much because he can't fly anywhere. He can't get to where he needs to go. And so they're canceling meetings all over the world. And I was going to Mexico next weekend, but they canceled all public meetings in Mexico. So I can't go to Mexico. And if I did, I don't know if I could get back. So I'm just not going to go. I'm going to postpone it. You know, it wouldn't bother me to stay in Mexico for a month, but, you know, I don't have to. There's too many things going on here. But Rob talked. We were talking on the phone Monday morning, and he said this thing starts. He said there's 4 things that we go through because of this. And the first one that he told me, and I kind of got I just got the outline, wrote it down. He didn't even know I did it. I wrote it down, and then I got a little short message out of it. And it's the first thing that happens when this panic hit is shock. I was totally shocked. You know, you saw the Facebook messages, you know, before this thing got to the United States. It said, you know, I'm not going to let a virus named after a beer kill me since I survived high school on Everclear, you know. You see all these crazy posts, and you know, they gave it no merit. It was a joke. But, you know, the world that you live in, when it strikes it, that's when shock comes. Now, before any of this stuff hit, Joel Osteen came out and said, we're not having church. That's one of the biggest churches in America, 20,000, 30,000 people. You know, I was like, what? What is he doing? I was literally, in my mind, criticizing the man. But now you look back, there's no way that they can. He had more information than we did. And so that world, that's a world I live in. I see what's going on in churches. That's why we've had live stream for 4 years now. You know, I mean, and now they're having to rush to get it in other churches so that they can have church. We've been doing this for a long time. This is nothing new to us. You know, I can't wait to get home and look at some of these pastors who've never done it, and they're focused on the camera more than they are, you know, and just look at some of these things. But then, you know, my baseball, I love baseball, and when they canceled baseball season, I was like, what? It's outside. You know, what? Basketball, there's no more basketball. And then there's no more school. What's going on? Shock and awe, you know. And I said, well, you know, hey, we're canceling all. You know, Izzy can't do her play. She can't run track. She can't do, it's over. You know, she still has to do online classes. But you can't do the fun stuff. You know, it's not fair, but, you know, but she's going to be educated through this process as well. But, you know, that's the part that shocked me. The next stage is reality. When I went to get toilet paper, reality hit me right in the face. The reality of the world that you're living in is changing for the worst every single day. You know, I went to... Ginger was gone. She was in Texas and when all the toilet paper thing hit, you know. Thank God. And, you know, so I'm going into Brooks's one day. I figured out how to do this. You go to the store every day and you just get what you need if they've got it. If they don't, you come back the next day early and you get this restocked, you know, but different things restock every day. So I'm going in, and so a toilet paper order had just come in right before I got to Brooks's. They didn't even put it on the shelf. They put it out front. And so I got 2 things of toilet paper, not the big, I don't need that much. So put 2 in my thing, and then went in there and got some water, because I drink a lot of bottled water, and and got some things that I needed, so I got it. But that's the world we live in. It's like living in communist Russia. We have to stand in food lines to get. You got to stand in toilet paper lines. You got to stand in lines to get whatever they have that's going to be issued out to you. That's the way that's our reality. That's the world that we're living in right now. Did you ever think that the government would say you can't have church? They did it to Texas. I'm just using Texas because they're our neighbor. And I know it hurts them to not have church. I know a lot of great pastors in Texas that are doing everything they can, man. They're trying to connect with their communities. And let me tell you this online. If you're a part of a church, send your tithe to your church, because we're supporting people all over the world. We can't afford to cut them off. We've got friends separated, so whatever church that you go to, send your tithe in. Send your tithe in. Send in an offering to the church that you call home. If it's here, send it here. It's somewhere else, send it somewhere else. It doesn't matter. But you know what? This could cripple the church. And the world needs a church that's fearless. And it's hard to be fearless if you're broke. So I'm just going to say that. Not necessarily this church, but whatever church you call home, send your tithe in. They need it. They need it. The missionaries need it. But anyway, that's the world that we're living in. And the third thing is anger. Are y'all mad that we're having to live like this? I'm mad. And it's a righteous indignation. The devil has no right. I'm not going to say anything about the government. I don't want to, because I think we need to be praying for them to make right decisions, not criticize them for making wrong ones at this point. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to lift them up in prayer. But I'm a little bit mad. The worst thing that could happen to an Israelite during the Old Testament? You know what the worst thing was? To be exiled. To be set apart, to be isolated. We're being forced right now to, what's the word? Quarantine. Self-quarantine. And I understand why they do that. But you've got to understand that when you're quarantined, it means that you are isolated. And isolation breeds nothing good. Not anything good can come out of isolation. Nothing. Because isolation breeds depression. We know that. Even people that suffer with depression, what do they want to do? They want to isolate themselves. And people that are in isolation do what? They become depressed. They just run right side by side. That's the way that it works. Depression leads to a whole host of bad things, man. I'm telling you. Suicides and overdoses are already on the rise since this thing happens. Since this quarantine. People get alone. They get depressed. They open themselves up for things that they normally wouldn't, and it's awful. One of the isolation causes. I looked this up. I was really surprised. Isolation causes high blood pressure. Because when you're isolated, you watch CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever, and the world's coming to an end. Causes your blood pressure to rise. Also causes obesity because you binge walk Walking Dead and eat Cheetos. I've seen post on Facebook where I've gained 12 pounds since this thing started. Well, quit eating. Go outside and start walking. Get out and exercise. Go jog. Jogging's not do whatever you got to do. Get out and do those jobs in your yard that you've been wanting to do. Get out there and fix the gutter. Get out there and get outside and do something. Don't stay in the house and do nothing. Here's a good idea, Don't watch Contagion. Or Outbreak, or The Last Ship. It's not going to do you any good. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, and that was a thing. Man, I saw it on Facebook. Everybody saying, watch Outbreak, man. It'll open your eyes. No, I don't want them open. I've yet to watch it. But it doesn't change the fact that I believe that this could be the church's finest hour if we don't isolate. We can self-quarantine without isolate. But isolation leads to all kinds of things. Anxiety, depression, and listen to this, a weakened immune system. The thing that we're trying to prevent the most causes the thing that we're trying to prevent the most. Isn't that crazy? Isolation causes a weakened immune system. Why? Because you're just doing nothing. Get outside. Go do something. I'm telling you something. Tell you what we're doing. Izzy wants to learn how to cook. Man, the last few nights, Izzy's been learning how to cook. And she's doing a good job. And so we have family dinners. Last night it was over at Joel and Serena's. I didn't go because I was getting ready for this. But I mean, for the last 3 or 4 nights, I mean, everybody's come to the house and we've cooked and we've ate. We've all got together and turned off our cell phones, or whatever we have to do. But we got to have that with our family. We've got to. If you don't have that, what do you have? You've got to have that interaction with people. Are you with me? I got a lot more on that, but I'm going to stop there. The last stage is rebellion. Because of your isolation, you open yourself up, you get depressed, you get oppressed. Therefore, the spirit of rebellion gets in there, and then things get ugly. Don't ever get to that point in this vicious cycle. Don't ever get to this point of depression. Find me. Find somebody. Let's get a hold of this thing. Let's do something. Let's not ever let it get to this point. It's okay to be angry, but you laugh at. You just got to laugh it off sometimes. Sometimes you just have to laugh it off and move forward. Well, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to give you 2 scriptures, and it's not going to take long. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." In some scriptures, it says, "As a man sees himself on the inside, so is he." There's only one person in this room I can't see, and that's me. There's only one person in this room you can't see, and it's you. But how you see yourself determines on who you become. And that's why I keep telling people, hey, I want you to see yourself the way that God sees you. I want you to see yourself with all the potential that God sees within you so that you can be all that God has for you to be. The problem is we can't see ourselves that way sometimes. If we see ourselves as a winner, you know what we're going to do? Win. You see yourself as a loser, what are you going to do? You're going to lose. It's how you see yourself determines what you're going to become. And Jesus was talking to a Roman centurion, and y'all know the story. The centurion came to him and said, "Hey, I got a servant that's sick. He's bad sick, man. Can you heal him?" Yeah, he said, "I'll come." Jesus said, "I'll come and heal him." The guy said, "No, you just say the word, and it'll be done." And we know the story, but in Matthew 8, the 13th verse, Jesus told the Roman centurion, he says, as you believe, so be it done for you. It's the same scripture. As you believe, so be it done for you. As a person sees himself on the inside, so they become. Who's the greatest boxer of all time? Muhammad Ali. You know why? He kept telling you so. He saw himself as the greatest of all time, and he became the greatest of all time. When people talk about him, they say, he's the greatest heavyweight that ever lived. Great athletes are great before they have their greatest feat. Babe Ruth, most prolific home run hitter of all time. He was hitting 50 and 60 home runs when the average was 8 to 12. And he was such a good hitter that he's the first athlete to ever make more money than the president. And so they were interviewing him. They asked Babe Ruth, they said, hey, how does it feel to make more money than the president? He said, well, how many home runs did he hit last year? Yeah, Babe Ruth's got one of my favorite quotes of all time. He said, the loudest boos always come from the cheapest seats. I love that. That's one of the reasons critics don't bother me, because they're not in the arena, they're not on the field, they're not in the arena of life. They're not out there standing on this Crestview Street handing out food every day. You know, somebody called the cops on us for that. Yeah. Call the cops on us for feeding people. And then Nash declared a state of emergency in the state of Louisiana. We go to feed people and they call the cops on us. Isn't that funny? You know what? Loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. You can take that quote and use it all the time. Critics shouldn't bother you. They should inspire you. However you perceive yourself, that becomes your reality. As a person thinks on the inside, so are they. However you perceive yourself becomes your reality. We see ourselves as weak or strong, winners or losers. I can promise you, I'll win a lot at whatever I do. You know why? I've always seen myself as a winner. I've never seen myself as a loser. And I'm telling you what, when I lose, I'm in a bad mood. I'm the worst loser you have ever met. You can ask anybody in my family or anybody that's known me for any amount of time. I am a terrible loser. That's because I win a lot. And losing sucks. I don't see myself as a loser. I see myself as a winner. Ooh. Are you getting where I'm going with this thing? If you can see yourself the way God sees yourself, you're going to be a better self. We have to see ourselves on the other side of this panic, because that's what it is. We have to see ourselves coming out stronger. We have a scared world and need a fearless church. We need the churches to come together and to do things. We've already got one event planned. I think it's the 27th, isn't it? March the 27th. Doing an online event with Pastor David Dywobus and Pastor Trey Waller of Living Word. And we're going to be doing an online giving thing for the pantry. Actually, it's for formula and baby food, and diapers and things for babies, because there's a shortage of that stuff right now. So we're going to do an online event trying to raise money for that. But that's churches coming together to meet the need of a community in our nation worst time we've had in a long time. Let me tell you what, 9/11 was bad, but it wasn't as bad. We had somebody to be angry at, and people don't know to be angry at the devil. Just those Bible thumping, pew jumping, spirit filled churches know that this is a devil's fault. It's not a virus fault. Back then, we could get mad at who caused the terrorists. We could get mad at them, but the world doesn't know what to get mad at here. We have to be the leader in this thing. We have to be stronger in our community than we have ever been before, and we're strong in our community. But we have to do more than we've done before because there's a greater need than there's ever been before. We have to rise up and be the church. Be the change. You have to be the Jesus to somebody because they need it. We can't stand by and do nothing. We can't sit in isolation. We can't sit at our homes and do nothing while this happens. We have to be out there combating this thing. We're not going to violate any laws, but I'm telling you, I'm going to push it to the limit if it means getting somebody saved or if it means getting somebody delivered or it means getting somebody healed. I promise you, I'll do whatever I have to do. But we are all here in this thing together as a church. And that's the way we're going to stay. We're going to stay united, and we're going to unite with other bodies of believers that are like-minded. And we're going to Minden should be the benchmark that all towns aspire to be. What we don't realize, and I'm sorry, not us, but the church as a whole, that this is a flashing neon sign that says opportunity. Because they're too busy isolating themselves and being angry, isolated, and depressed, when this should be the church's finest hour. This is when churches should be coming together to see what we can do to keep the gospel flowing, to increase the level of word that comes into the homes, however we can get it there. And that's what we're going to be working on next week. We're going to be working with other churches. I mean, I love First Methodist. My goodness, those are some great, they got some good people over there. We got First Baptist comes and they working at the food pantry as well. Living Word, Pastor Whitaker, Victory Praise. Those folks have church, well, in some way, shape, or form. Some people just shut down. I think Calvary's doing drive-in church this morning. We don't have to believe everything the same way, but we can agree on death, burial, and resurrection. And I'm telling you, there's a lost world and they're scared right now, and they need Jesus. And it's up to us, Fearless Church, to do it. The only problem is I've got to find some more churches around us that are fearless like we are. And that's what I want to look for this week. Fearless churches. Not say they're fearless, but let me look at your history of the last 2 weeks and see just how fearless you are. Because I don't want to be unequally yoked. I want to be at full potential. Because it doesn't take, let me tell you what, 4 churches together can defeat this thing in the entire in Minden. Like I said when I first started, it doesn't take a lot of Jesus to beat a lot of devil. And if we can come together, and if we can do this thing the right way, God's way, we can defeat this thing. We need to be the cure, we need to be the change, and we need to be the Jesus that the world so desperately needs right now. Amen? Stand to your feet. If you're at home,